have been Arab ministers in the government, that they're Arab doctors, lawyers, judges. There's an Arab judge on Israel's Supreme Court, an Arab judge in a district court recently, just a week ago, sentenced the former Israeli president, an Arab judge. How many people know that? This is a free country. This is a place, the only place where Arabs have full rights under the law. And around us, and women, Arab women have full rights. Around us, you know, in this vast expanse of darkness, you know, Arabs have no rights. Their rights are trampled on. Women are treated as chattel. You know, they're brutalized. They're stoned for adultery. Gays are hanged. Israel is a free country for Arabs, Jews, and
here
all
was
of its
Jonah
citizens.
asking one question and getting all the...
Jonah got two questions.
Yeah, got two answers, but I want to go on.
Jonah said something about the foreign minister, which I answered, but Jonah talked about delegitimizing Israel, which I've also answered, because the only way to combat falsehood is to tell the truth. I just did.
There's so many questions, so I want to, with your permission, move on. And I suggest for the next question you pay extra attention, because there's a little surprise in it coming all the way from Osaka, Japan.
Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Paul Jorgensen, originally from Vancouver, Canada, but currently living in Osaka, Japan. I've actually met you once before, so this is the second time that I've met you. My question is, I've heard a lot of talk that since the collapse of the Soviet Union, that Israel is no longer a strategic asset to the United States, but rather a strategic liability. So my question is, what is your response to that? In what way is Israel still a strategic asset to the U.S., and what does the U.S. get out of the relationship between the two countries?
I'm not going to ask you if you remember him, because that would be, you know, too hard. But he has a hard question to answer.
No, I don't think so. First of all, it's good to see you again, Paul. And, come again. I'd love to see you. I think, and I hope things are okay in Osaka and in Japan in general. We're all rooting for the people of Japan in their difficult times. I think that my answer to Paul would be, Paul, are you kidding? I mean, look at this. Earth shaking everywhere, west of India right up to the Straits of Gibraltar. Everything is shaking and rocking, and the only stable place, the only stable country is this democracy, Israel, a developed country, prosperous country. Everybody's equal under the law. It has a strong military because it has a strong society. You know, people call Israel an aircraft carrier. God, if you had a few more, I think you wouldn't be in this trouble. And I think that if there's anything that represents both the values and interests of the United States and the free world, it's this free country called Israel in the heart of the Middle East. You should invent us if we didn't exist, and you need more of us. And God forbid what would happen if we weren't here. You'd have the whole Middle East collapse, just collapse in front of the radicals. I think many people in America understand it, probably better than most people's elsewhere. But this is a common interest of all those who want to see democracy, stability, and progress.
But you know, there are some people
in
the Obama administration who specifically say that Israel is currently the problem in the Middle East and is really affecting the American troops in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I heard this. Coming from some areas, and I want to say, I'm not sure it came from where you say it is, but I think if you look at it now, you know, you see this turmoil in Tunis, in Libya, in Egypt, in Bahrain, in Syria, and elsewhere, in all these places, in Tehran, of course. So what do people demonstrate? Do they say, oh, Israel is the problem, we have to solve this problem, the Palestinians? That's not what they're saying. They're saying we want freedom. We want progress. Some of them are saying we want to see a free country in our own state like the ones the Israelis have. So Israel is not the center of this crisis. We need to solve our conflict with the Palestinians for our own sake and for the sake of our Palestinian neighbors. But the reform of the Middle East, the turbulence in the Middle East has got nothing to do with Israel. It's got to do with a very basic thing that I said before. The 20th century skipped by this vast part of the world, and the 21st century technology is telling these people what they missed out on. They missed out on having a developed society like Israel, and they know it.
You know what? There are a lot of surprises in this project, and I want to show you the next question coming from Taiwan. It was the most popular video on the project, and it's quite interesting.
Hello, Mr. Prime Minister. This is Ariel from Taiwan. What do you say to your children about peace, about love, and about the universal belief that all are created equal?
I tell them that these are the most basic elements of our beliefs. You know, I read the Bible with one of my boys. He's Israel's national Bible champion, #3 in the world. And, you know, we read it right in this room, actually, every Sabbath. And what does it say? It says that all men are created as children of God, that they all have a right to live. They have a right to their dreams, their aspirations. And this is a fundamental concept that was brought forth by the Jewish people in the Bible. It's with us. It's expressing the fact that in Israel there's equality under the law for everybody. People don't know that. They don't know that they're Arabs, they're Muslims, they're Christians, they're Jews. Everybody's equal under the law. I mean, I always find it amazing. I don't know, Ariel, if you know this. I mean, I don't know if you know that every fifth Israeli is an Arab, and that they enjoy complete freedom. And in fact, the only place in this vast part of the world where Arabs live and Muslims live mostly, the only place where they have freedom and equality under the
I must admit that
is in Israel because Ariel, I'm talking to Ariel, because this is such an elementary part of our ethos. So I don't even have to tell it to my children. You know why? They tell it to me. You have a national Bible champion as your son, and you'll hear this again and again.
Well, now we're back. We've gotten to the part which is called in this project the Big Three, the questions that Obama's answered, Cameron answered, and now it's your turn. So shortly, let's start with the first Big Three question, and that is, tell us about one experience that changed the way you view the world.
Well, undoubtedly the most powerful experience in my life was the fall of my older brother, Jonathan, Yoni, in the Entebbe rescue mission. Basically, he was the leader of the commando force that set out to rescue Israelis that were taken by German and Arab terrorists and put in Uganda under Idi Amin at the time. And he died in the rescue. And that changed my life and steered it to its present course, because Yoni fell in the battle against terrorism, but he never believed that the battle against terrorism was only military. He believed it was political and moral. And so I have been waging this political and moral battle against terrorism for the last 30-some years, and I'm still doing it. We're concerned with the greatest terror of all, nuclear terror. I think the effect of that has been that when I go to a bereaved family in Israel, and I see a mother grieving for her son, I say, that's my mother. Or I see a father grieving for his son, I say, that's my father. Or I see a brother, I say, that's me. And as a result of that, I think carefully before I send our young men in harm's way. I have to often, but I think about it. I think it makes me a more responsible leader.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Let's go to the second question, and that is, if you could ask one question of a world leader, what would it be and to whom?
Well, I'm getting a double whammy because I was asked this in Hebrew, so I answered one answer for a Hebrew question, okay? Even though
for Hebrew audience, Israeli audience.
No, well, for an Israeli audience, but even though the person I asked the question in Hebrew wouldn't know Hebrew at the time. But if you ask me for an English speaker, I would ask the question to Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Britain in World War II. And the question I would ask Churchill is there anything you could have done differently to persuade the world that they have to act forcibly in time against Nazism? Because Churchill, even though he was a great leader, he failed to persuade the great powers of the day to act in time against Nazism. And I like to ask him that. And And maybe his answer would be, no, there's nothing you can do, because ultimately there's what he called the slumber of democracies. Democracies sleep, and they sort of have to be banged on the head until they wake up. And you know, I find that frustration now.
Regarding Iran.
Because for 15 years, I've been talking to the world about the danger of Iran arming itself with nuclear weapons, what nuclear terrorism we could have, how they can control the world's oil supply, how they threaten my country with obliteration, but they'll threaten many others. And you try and you try and you try, and there's some progress. I don't want to say that there isn't, but not the kind of mobilization that is required against something so great. So I want to ask Churchill, maybe he could give me, maybe I can glean from him some idea how to do it better this time. And I have to say that I regret the fact that he's not going to answer me.
Yeah, he's known to be a very big hero of yours. Let's go to the third question, and that would be, what is the biggest problem facing the next generation, and what should we do to solve it today? That's a big question. Let's see if you can try and give us...
I just gave the answer. I said that the greatest mission that we have is to prevent a militant Islamic regime from meeting up with nuclear weapons, or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called Iran. The second is called Pakistan, or more specifically, a Taliban takeover of Pakistan. Because if these radical regimes have nuclear weapons, they will not obey the rules that have been obeyed in the last almost 7 decades, and they can threaten our world. So the first thing is to stop them from getting these weapons. That's mission number 1. And mission number 2 is to find a substitute for oil. That would make our planet safe, and it would make our planet clean. These are the 2 great missions for our generation and the next one.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, I would like to very much thank you for this opportunity, and for you letting the viewers from the world come into your official residence and answer their questions directly. Thank you very much, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. I look forward to doing this again.
Yeah.